I am doing my project on the golden age of Hollywood. The golden age of Hollywood. Here's some fun facts about the golden age of Hollywood. Fact number 1. The American movie industry was based in Los Angeles, California. The climate and location of Hollywood was best suited for movies. Look at how the weather is. 85% of all movies made in the 1920s were filmed in or near Hollywood. The golden age of Hollywood began during the silent movie era, but some people believe it began at the end of the silent movie era. The golden age of Hollywood began in 1915 and ended in 1963. I'm mainly focusing on these to the 30s. It was called the golden age of Hollywood because of all the money that came from Hollywood. But another fun fact is that during the Great Depression, Hollywood really didn't suffer that much with it. Actually more flourished. During the golden age of Hollywood, there were 5 film studios known as the Big Five. The Big Five were, Warner Brothers, RKO, Fox, MGM, and Paramount. Smaller studios include Columbia, Universal, and United Artists. It is estimated that up to 80 million people went to the movies during the Great Depression. Some of the greatest films made in Hollywood were made in the late 1930s, such as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Gone with the Wind, The Wizard of Oz, and that's just a few of the many movies. In 1922, the first all-color film was produced in Hollywood, called Tall of the Sea, starring Chinese-American actress Anna May Wong. 1925, another large landmark in the golden age of Hollywood, was the first film with sound effects and music, called Don Juan, sorry if I am not pronouncing that right, and it was made by Warner Brothers, starring John Barrymore and Mary Astor. I'm also sorry if I butchered those names too. United Artists Studios scored a box office hit with their movie The Gold Rush, a Charlie Chaplin silent comedy made over $4 million. Now, instead of just telling you facts about the golden age of Hollywood, let me show you some clips from the golden age of Hollywood.
Number 10, Frankenstein.
No!
Number 9, All Quiet on the Western Front.
I wonder what you are going to do.
I'll go. I want to go. Count on me.
Me too.
Number 8, It Happened One Night.
Hey, driver, these seats accommodate 2 people, don't they? Well, maybe they do and maybe they don't. Thank you.
Number 7, Stagecoach.
If there's anything I don't like, it's driving a stagecoach through Apache country.
Number 6, King Kong. Number 5, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Hi-ho, it's home from work we go. Hi-ho, 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 hi-ho.
Number 4, Modern Times.
Senora Pilacina, voulez-vous la taximeter?
Number 3, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Jefferson Smith.
I beg your pardon?
Jefferson Smith. He's the only senator to have. Sure. He ought to be president. I like Jeff Smith.
Number 2, The Wizard of Oz.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
Number 1, Gone with the Wind.
After the stock market crash in October of 1929, most parts of the American economy took a real hit, but not Hollywood. And at the height of the Great Depression in 1933, roughly a quarter of the American workforce couldn't find a job, and millions of others were barely making ends meet. So you'd think that the last thing people would do with their hard-earned money was go to the movies. And yet, the Depression was one of the best things to happen to the American film business. That's depressing. In fact, more films were released by the major studios during the 1920s and 30s than any other decade, averaging about 800 a year compared to less than 500 per year today. Now, all 5 of these studios dominated the production, distribution, and exhibition of films for a while, but a U.S. Supreme Court case in 1948, along with the coming of television, signaled a major turning point. In the case, known as United States versus Paramount Pictures, the government argued that the major studios were in violation of antitrust laws. In other words, by owning both the production studios and the movie theaters, they were exercising an unfair monopoly and stifling competition. The Supreme Court agreed and forced the studios to break up their business, sell their theaters, and focus on just production and distribution. Hollywood continued to lead the global film market for another 10 or 15 years, but that near-complete control over the industry was ending. Hollywood saw some major technical leaps in the film business, too, including color. Filmmakers have been experimenting with color since the dawn of cinema. The earliest techniques involved hand-tinting individual frames, a painstaking process that had to be repeated for each print of each film. Not great. Over the next few decades, engineers found ways to use stencils to tint films much faster. They also developed other means of adding color, like bathing the film stock in dyes that fit the mood of the scene, called toning. Red for violence, blue for sorrow, green for grassy. By the mid-1920s, nearly 90% of Hollywood films were either tinted, toned, or some combination of the two, which was great, except color itself looked wildly artificial. And once Hollywood converted to sound-on-film technology, the tinting interfered with the film stock's ability to record proper sound. Crash Course Film History. TLDR, it's hard. So filmmakers needed to figure out color cinematography, capturing color with the image. As early as 1861, a Scottish physicist named James Clerk Maxwell, who we talked about in Crash Course Physics, well, I didn't, Shinny did, built the foundations of color photography. The light all around us is made up of a spectrum of different wavelengths, some of which we see as visible colors. Knowing this, Maxwell figured out that all these colors can be derived from some combination of red, yellow, and blue. Beginning in 1906, artists and engineers tried for 15 years to use this technology to achieve color cinematography. But, much like me in high school, they kept failing. Their experiments were unreliable or too expensive. Then, along came Technicolor. In 1922, the Technicolor Corporation saw its first success with a special beam-splitting camera that could make two separate negatives. The light entered the camera and was split into different wavelengths, just like how sunlight hits a prism and splits into a rainbow. Half continued straight ahead, while the other half was diverted 90 degrees to produce two film negatives. These negatives were chemically treated, dyed either red or blue, and cemented together. Then you could run that final film strip through a regular projector, and voila! Even though they weren't spot on, the colors in these films were more reliable and accurate than any of the earlier attempts. And while that beam-splitting camera was expensive, at least theaters didn't have to buy new projectors to show color films. Over the next decade, Technicolor expanded its system into a three-color process, with a camera that recorded the original image into three separate negatives, red, blue, and green.
Now, after watching these clips from these films, what do you think of the golden age of Hollywood? I can tell you what I think. I think without the golden age of Hollywood, we wouldn't have the advances we have in film technology we have today. We wouldn't have color, we wouldn't have sound, we really wouldn't have 4K, wouldn't even have HD. Just think. Now we have color. A little bit more color. Really added sound, obviously, but then we can add a little bit better color, better quality of footage, and full HD. See? All these technology advances, and we wouldn't have any of it. Unfortunately, sorry, the sonic screwdriver did not come with the technology advances of the film era. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I am the Doctor, so I'll be off probably saving the universe. Also, don't forget to go watch a movie every once in a while. Go enjoy a classic or even a new one. Now, just for the fun of it, I'm going back to a little bit more older technology for the credits.